Hi, I'm Dr. Joel Wallach, and today we're going to talk about osteoporosis and arthritis. Many people like to separate them, but in reality you can't talk about arthritis and osteoporosis separately because arthritis is one of the manifestations of osteoporosis. Now, interestingly enough, there's not a single medical treatment designed to prevent or cure arthritis or osteoporosis. We have, in fact, learned how to prevent and cure arthritis and osteoporosis in animals over 300 years ago. And the advantage I have, of course, is I'm a veterinarian as well as a physician. Now, osteoporosis, and I'm going to speak about osteoporosis generically because, again, there's 147 different diseases that are really manifestations of osteoporosis. A medical doctor will normally refer you to different specialists. For instance, if you have a peripheral neuropathy because of osteoporosis in the skull, there's 24 bones in the skull, face, and jaw, and they get osteoporosis just like your ribs and your vertebrae and your hips and your legs. Most people don't realize that the skull bones will get osteoporosis and arthritis too because they have all the joints. And the osteoporosis and arthritis of the skull will actually generate a connective tissue called bone matrix. And this purpose of the bone matrix connective tissue is to attract more minerals into the bones. And it becomes very, very highly produced. It is generated in such large amounts that it fills the canals and the tunnels that nerves go through. And so a lot of diseases we think of as being neurological problems, such as Bell's palsy, where one side of the face droops, that's because the seventh cranial nerve is being squeezed by this connective tissue, this bone matrix that is generated when you have osteoporosis of the skull bones. And then there's trigeminal neuralgia, or tic-douloureux. The fifth cranial nerve becomes squeezed. A lot of people will get what's called tinnitus, or ringing in the ears. The auditory branch of the eighth cranial nerve is being squeezed by this connective tissue that's generated when you have osteoporosis. You can get diseases such as sciatica, where the roots of the sciatic nerve, which come out from between the vertebrae and the lumbar area, the lower back, they will actually be squeezed coming out from between these lumbar vertebrae. You can have degenerative disc disease, which is a concurrent or similar disease to osteoporosis, but you can get a shrinking of the vertebrae or compression fractures of the vertebrae, bone spurs, calcium deposits, all of which can impinge upon these nerves. And so we're going to talk about some of these peripheral neuropathies. We're going to talk about osteoporosis. Osteoporosis is not a woman's disease, as doctors would have you believe. Osteoporosis occurs equally. Osteoporosis occurs equally in both men and women. And this will flabbergast most people because most people have been taught that osteoporosis primarily occurs in postmenopausal women. You can have osteoporosis when you're 3 years old if you live on nothing but juice, and a lot of kids do today. They grow up on apple juice and grape juice, soft drinks, dry cereals, hot cereals, very little protein, very little in the way of minerals, and it's amazing that we have so many tall kids because of the lack of minerals. Now, our bones consist of more than just calcium, and when people try to prevent calcium deficiencies with just calcium, they say, oh my goodness, my whole family of women has osteoporosis, so people will naturally gravitate towards supplementing with calcium. Well, that's not enough. There's actually 89 cofactors necessary for the calcium to work and be employed by the body in an optimal way. Many of them the average person knows. People know that you need vitamin D to absorb calcium and deposit in the bones. People know that we need vitamin C to make good and healthy bones, otherwise you get scurvy and you start getting osteoporosis of the facial bones. When you get osteoporosis of the facial bones and the jaw bones, you get a periodontal disease. And of course, somebody would refer you to a periodontist or a dentist, when in fact you need to deal with the osteoporosis that is caused by the vitamin C deficiency. So you need vitamin D, you need vitamin C, you need vitamin A to have healthy bones. You need copper and zinc and selenium and strontium, and you need boron. You need things like silica, praseodymium, neodymium, and I could go on through the 60 essential minerals, and then all the vitamins are necessary for your bones to maintain and repair themselves, to develop bones when you're a child. And so it's a very, very naive position to take if you want to prevent osteoporosis to just supplement with calcium. I also find it kind of amusing that the modern physician today, when somebody complains about achy bones and he does a bone density test and finds that they do have early stages or even advanced stages of osteoporosis, instead of sitting down and talking with them for 15 minutes about mineral supplementation or all the known essential nutrients, they will whip out the prescription pad and write a prescription for drugs such as Fosamax. And certainly Fosamax does not rebuild bone mass. It will slow down the teardown process, but will not actually add more bone mass. People also forget that there's a two-edged process going on in our bones at all times. Our bones are not static. They are not like poured concrete. Our bones are very dynamic, depending on what you eat and what you don't eat. That's why people with arthritis, they say, you know, I get achy sometimes, and then I could go weeks and not get achy, and then, man, suddenly I get very achy. Well, that's because of what people are eating and not eating. And so, obviously, you want to